Well, today's topic is kindly introduced. We're talking about roots and Kamma. Well, Kamma is a very emotive topic, eliciting a lot of questions, and also a lot of what they call different kinds of understanding. And then, before I continue, I'd like to emphasize the issue of Kamma is problematical. Why? It is an Indian word, and during the time of the Buddha, up to now, Indian language has they have many teachers, philosophies, and so on. So the idea of karma is different from each Indian religion. Here, of course, we are a Buddhist center. Karma, we're talking from the point of view of what the Buddha discovered regarding this natural law. But coming from Brahmanical viewpoints of karma, K-A-R-M-A, Sanskrit, or Hindu karma, or Jain karma, and many others, and general usage, modern day, even the Western people trying to get in the bandwagon and coin their thing. Oh, see, retribution. You do something, you get something, some effects. They have their own ideas. They spin the thing. So the word karma has been approached from many angles, and we have been subject to a lot of media articles and opinions and all that. Not just religious talk, just general, even economic, political, or general talk among our friends, social side. So we come here with a very varied perspective of what karma is or kamma is. Now here, of course, as mentioned, I read what the Buddha says. Okay, I don't care what you think or what I read in the newspaper or some article. So what did the Buddha say about karma is very important. And karma is somehow related to roots, the basis of karma, from what the Buddha discovered underneath the Bodhi tree. Of course, as mentioned, as alluded, we have started a Dhamma series. The last session, the basic explanation, Sister Paru has kindly introduced. And today we're talking about roots of karma. And inevitably, when we talk about the issues raised in the following slides, we will talk about how do I get rid of these? How to get rid of these roots? How do I modify that? Well, hold your horses. Some more. Removal of unwholesome roots, removal through mindfulness is coming. So please don't ask those questions. Reserve it for those. So I'm trying to narrow your enthusiasm for this topic. So today we are talking about the problems first. Just to backtrack, I mentioned the Buddha discovered it underneath the Bodhi tree. In the second watch of the night, the Buddha acquired the second knowledge. There were three knowledges. First knowledge, recollection of the past lives. Second knowledge, this one. The third one is more on the Abhidhamma and all those cause and effect. Here, from the sutta called the Mahasacaka Sutta, I make no apologies. I'm a student of the Nikayas, so I will quote where I got this thing from. You can also just take this sutta, and this is from Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta number 36, an extract from it. You can read the whole sutta. Here the extract says, when the Buddha said, recall, when my mind had immersed in samadhi like this, purified, bright, flawless, rid of corruptions, pliable, workable, steady, and imperturbable, I extended toward the knowledge of the death and rebirth of sentient beings. But before talking about the extended it, notice this portion. That is the purpose of meditation. You have spent 30 years of meditation, going for retreats and everything. That is not your trump card. The benefit of meditation, this type of that type, especially as taught by the Buddha. The Buddha taught many types of meditation for different personalities, but all culminating in this. The purpose of meditation is to achieve this. Okay? Please bear that in mind. Don't talk about, oh, may I be able to float in the air? May I be able to read somebody's thoughts? That one's all, what they call, it may happen, it may not happen. That is not important. As far as the Buddha is concerned, this is the key benefit you are aiming for in meditation. So in other words, to put it simply, meditation is a means to an end, not the end itself, okay? That's not the end. To meditate is to achieve this, to do something. What did this Bodhisattva, the Buddha, to be? And later he became the Buddha. What did he do with this purified mind? I extended it toward knowledge of death and rebirth of sentient beings. Now, key thing, death and rebirth. So during this enlightenment process underneath the Bodhi tree, he was able to see sentient beings passing away, means dying, and being reborn, born again. So we are not, this is not our only life. We have been around in this cycle of birth and death ad infinitum in the past. And if we don't do anything about it, we will continue the same ad infinitum to the future. It doesn't end. Then you have inferior and superior people, beautiful and ugly people, born in the good place or in the bad place, and many other variations. Basically, this very short thing talks about inequalities in life. Why they born rich family, I born poor family, these kind of things is to do with that aspect. So I understood how sentient beings are reborn according to their deeds, their actions, what they have done. Not what they think, what family they are born in, whether they are orang putih, orang kuning, orang merah, whatever color you want to point, is coined in colloquial society, but according to their actions, their deeds. And this was the second knowledge he achieved. This is an important thing about. So he knows what is going on. And this illustration, this page, clearly shows that the Buddha was a scientist. He was trying to find out things. And using his mind, he was able to understand and discover there was this kind of natural law in operation. It's nothing to do with whether we like it or not. It's like that, it's like that. Like a lot of us don't like gravity. Why? Gravity is linked to what? Your weighing balance. Stand on it, yeah, so heavy, no good. Nothing to do with that. Gravity is gravity, regardless of what the result or what your interpretation, whether you like or not. But the aspect of Kamma, since we're talking about it, the Buddha also discovered, of course, these are all from the commentarial section, not directly taught by the Buddha, but indirectly. There are 5 kinds of natural laws, general class. Some of it we were forced to study in our schools. Now we had to sit for, my time is called LCE, then become SRP, then we have SPM and all those kind of things, physics, geography, and all those things. We had to regurgitate it out in the exam to be able to get good grades and move on in studies. So you have Utu Niyama, physical inorganic order, seasonal phenomena of winds and rains. Those who remember your geography, this is called physical geography. The monsoons, northeast monsoon, southwest monsoon, all this kind of stuff. And so many other things, how they operate. Okay, whether you like it or not, it happens. All driven by the energy from the sun. Bija Niyama, order of germs and seeds, physical organic order, and so on. So we are talking about seeds. Here I show you DNA. Okay, we are driven by that. And today we'll be talking about roots. In a way, roots is analogized by this aspect. And of course, we have Kamma Niyama, the order of actions, the deeds, things you do, and deeds have results. That's why we have born tall, dark, and handsome, or short and ugly like me. What to do? Like that lah. I have no choice in the matter. So we have Kamma Niyama. And of course, we have Dhamma Niyama, the order of the norm. Things like gravity and other laws in nature, which the scientists are still trying to discover. Citta Niyama, the order of the mind or psychic law. This is a bit more complicated, deeper, which psychologists today are trying to discover, and many of them are turning to what the Buddha had to say about this aspect. Now, these are all natural laws, nothing created. It's nothing to do with the guy upstairs or the guy downstairs or the guy around us. Who cares? Okay, these are natural laws. They interact with each other. They compete for expression. So things that happen to us, why got tsunami? Because of my karma. Don't simply blame karma. They are natural laws. They all compete with each other. Sometimes karma has no say, but other parts of the what they call the cooling off of the molten core in the center of Earth has something to say. Why? When it cools off, it forms, it precipitates, it forms, makes our tectonic plates bigger, and they interact with each other. There are many plates, they push against each other, and somehow it pushes the ocean underneath. It decides to push that portion of the ocean, a lot of water above. wow, suddenly got a tsunami lah. Or if it happens online, it's called an earthquake lah. So many ideas about that. But these are natural laws. Now, coming to the issue of karma. Many people got funny ideas about karma. But what did the Buddha say in this particular sutta from the Anguttara Nikaya? Intention, I tell you, is karma. By the way, the word karma is translated as action. Karma is not some mysterious word. Although intention is karma, but the word karma means action, something you do. So intending, one does an action by way of body, speech, and mind. As simple as that. Okay, karma is that. And then what are the repercussions of karma? Now, this first few series of slides is a quick revision. I'm sure Sister Paru has covered most of it. I am the owner of my deeds, actions. You cannot say excuse. Oh, somebody, the fellow caused me to do it. No, you own it. You did it, you own it. You have to bear responsibility. But when you do it, something else happens. You create certain energies. And on passing away, you heir to my deeds. You inherit your deeds. You cannot carry your Rolls Royce over, your Lamborghini, your Tesla over to the next life. Sorry, no chance. Okay, all the money, all the children, all the great-grandchildren you have. So what? Only one thing you carry into the next life. Your actions done here and in the past. It carries over. Okay, this is your inheritance. So you inherit your actions. These are my womb. Your actions here and now and previously, in the previous life, some of them, energy generated, have not got a chance to get used up. So they have effects. So these are my womb. They determine your future birth. As a human, whether born in the rich man's family, maybe eating out of a gold plate, or born in the poor family. If you are born as a human, maybe you're born higher up, maybe as one of the devas. I use the word deva. I don't like to use the word God. God, English word is very, what do you call, a wrong definition, give you wrong ideas. So you're born in the higher worlds, the deva worlds, or born lower as an animal, as a hungry ghost. Now we are into the Chinese, moving to that period in which we are concerned about hungry ghosts. And then deeds determine your relatives. Who will be your future father, your mother, if you have a father and mother? In the deva world, sometimes they are born spontaneously, no father and mother. Okay, who are your siblings? Who are your uncles, aunties? Some of your father and mother, siblings and relatives may be very good, very supportive, very loving. Some could be giving you more problems. No? They also determine your refuge. When we go through life, we need help. When we are born, we need help from our parents, our father and mother. Okay, we need help from maybe elder siblings to take care of us, to guide us, and so on, our relatives. And if we grow further, we have our school teachers, our schoolmates. And in general, life in general, we have professionals or people in your workplace who are more senior than you. They may be able to help you out, give advice about how to do this job, how to approach this project or whatever. But in the spiritual sense, refuge also means, in the spiritual sense of understanding what is going on in the world, we need guidance from spiritual advisors, from, say, the Buddha. The fact that you have an opportunity to come to Nalanda to attend a Dhamma talk or participate in any activity says that your refuge is pretty good. Why? Something you did previously, your karma, your previous actions in this life or in the previous lives, open the doors for you to have time to come. Not everybody has time to come on a Sunday morning to come. Why? They have to open the shop at Mid Valley or whatever pavilion to sell things. They have to work, Okay. Or sometimes you apply for leave to go for meditation retreat. The boss says, no, I have this project. You must come. You want to visit your parents in another state because they're getting old also. The boss says, no, I got this project. You either go home or you get out of this job. Or like that. So how? So doors close. So doors can open, it can also close. Some people, what I'm describing is, some people call it, oh, you're my fate. But who made your fate? You. I shall be the inheritor of whatever deeds or actions I do, whether You like it or you don't. Now, consequences. The evildoer suffers here and hereafter. He suffers in both the worlds. The Buddha discovered there are more than one world. In both the worlds, that means here, that means in this life. Hereafter means next life. The thought, evil have I done, torments him, and he suffers even more when gone to realms of woe. Woe means you're suffering. Realms which are not favorable to you, make you very, very unhappy. This is Dhammapada verse number 17. And the opposite also holds true. The doer of good rejoices here and hereafter. He rejoices in both the worlds. He rejoices and exults, recollecting his own pure deeds. Dhammapada verse number 16. Now, we are talking about roots. What causes karma? How do you know it's called good karma or bad karma? How is the criteria? It's not up to somebody upstairs or around us or below us. It is because of the character, the flavor. So is that intending you want to do influenced by your own personal greed? And greed is in varying degrees. When you want to switch on your, last time I always used to say, you switch on your hi-fi center. Nowadays, maybe some people don't bother about hi-fi center. People switch on their smartphone to play the music. You want it soft, louder, 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 whatever. So it's in varying degrees. So greed also has varying degrees. Little bit of greed, more intense greed. So greed itself is unskillful. The Buddha doesn't usually use the word good and bad action. The Buddha uses the word skillful or unskillful. So anything with a tinge of greed, however little, middling, or a lot of greed, is unskillful. The Pali word is akusala. So whatever a greedy person fabricates or thinks by means of body, speech, or mind, that too is unskillful. Whatever suffering a greedy person, his mind overcome by greed, his mind consumed, wrongly inflicts on another person. Because of your greed, you go and you do. Greed means I care about I. Who cares about the rest? Even your parents. Who cares? I am more important. So wrongly inflicts on another person through beating, imprisonment, confiscation, placing blame, banishment with the thought, I have power, I want power. That too is unskillful. Thus, it is that many evil or papa, unskillful qualities or events born of greed, caused by greed, originated through greed, conditioned by greed, come into play. Very, very nice definition by the Buddha. And the same thing happens. There are three roots, three evil roots that flavor our actions. Greed is one, aversion. Seems a very, very big English word. Use the term hatred. Aversion is hatred. And of course, delusion. Delusion is not knowing. So greed, hatred, and delusion are unskillful. Now, unskillful means you're silly to do it. Okay? If you knew how to do it properly, then you will avoid all this. And the same thing happens when there's a lack of greed. And lack of greed means kusala or skillful. So the Buddha talks about skillfulness and unskillfulness in our behavior. Okay, so hopefully we have lack of greed, aloba. We have lack of aversion or lack of hatred, adosa, which is skillful. We have lack of delusion, amoha, which is skillful. So both of these are out from the Mula Sutta. In a way, Mula is roots, the beginnings from the Anguttara Nikaya. Now, the next few pages will talk about what the Buddha went deep and talk about roots, sources of actions. So the Buddha was talking to monks, mendicants or monks. There are these three sources that give rise to actions or deeds, give rise. Now, here I'd like to emphasize a little bit on the Pali. Certain nuances, very important. Nidanani, the root word, nidana. Nidanta means source, origin, foundation, the cause. In the adjective form, originating from, caused by, founded by. So, coming from, Kamma means action, samudaya means give rise to. So literally, this underline, it gives the English translation. Of course, three means T. T means tiga. So three sources that give rise to this. And what are these three? Greed, hatred, and delusion are sources that give rise to this. So greed is lobo or loba, as we normally use, doso, and moho. So again, greed causes actions give rise to. So you word for word translation, you can actually see the flow in which it goes. Now, here the little portion is very important. Greed doesn't give rise to contentment. Seems very commonsensical, but people try to twist and turn the words and justify the position. Rather, greed just gives rise to greed. So greed, little bit gives rise to more greed. Hate doesn't give rise to love. Rather, hate just gives rise to hate. And of course, delusion doesn't give rise to understanding. And rather, delusion just gives rise to more delusion. And here, this portion is very important because it talks about this common thing which we find in society. The maxim or the accepted thing, that the end justifies the means. Don't care how you do it, as long as I want to achieve the goal. That means even with greed as a motivating factor, with hate or delusion, I do it. I can achieve my end. And I don't care about anybody else. Or whatever is done with the intention of doing good to the world is right and virtuous. Now, you think you have the intention, but the means you use is rooted in greed, hatred, and delusion. This is not accepted by the Buddha. The Buddha lays emphasis not at the final result or your intermediate intentions, but whether it's rooted in greed, hatred, and delusion or not. Very, very important. So this is not accepted by the Buddha. And to put it more commonsensical, a seed, you plant a seed, you expect something to grow. Of course, you provide soil, water, and all those conditions. You expect certain things. The picture here shows a mango seed. Common sense, everybody knows that, of course, you grow from mango seed, you get mangoes. If you're a good gardener, you have some little bit of green thumb, maybe not perfectly green. I have a brown thumb. My wife will say I brown. Everything I touch tends to die, which is not so bad, actually. My neighbor was, the person has a black thumb. Sure die. My 50% grow, some grow, some die. Okay, so a mango seed gives mango fruits. A mango seed cannot give you pomegranate. That defies common sense, right? I mean, I'm using that analogy. So from greed, you get greed. You nurture hatred, you get hatred, hateful actions. You nurture delusion, you get delusion. You cannot, from greed, get contentment, from hate, get love, from delusion, get understanding. Cannot. That defies common sense. So a lot of things in Buddhism is common sense, But scholars like to, or people try to justify their position, try to twist and turn their ideas until you also go against your, what they call, your lived experience, that mango seeds give mango fruits, not otherwise. Of course, so most of us would prefer to plant a mango seed. We want to get durian, better still. Especially Musang King. Oh, okay. Now, it is not because of deeds born of greed, hatred, and delusion that gods, humans, and those in any other good places are found. Why? Because the Buddha discovered there's rebirth, continued existence. So from greed, hatred, and delusion, you cannot expect to be born again or born into places where there are gods or devas, actually. Okay. In fact, the Pali The word Deva is over there. Okay, Devas, humans, and those in the good planes, just higher realms. Rather, it's because of deeds born of greed, hatred, and delusion that hell, animal realms, ghost realm, and any other places are found. Okay, now here is a nice English translation. When you go straight to the Pali, okay, Loba, Dosa, Moha mentioned, okay, because it's mentioned in the first line. Then hell, Niraya, Tirachana means animal world, Peti Visayo, Peta world, hungry ghost, and all other worlds which are Dugati. Dugati means a lot of sadness, a lot of unhappiness, suffering. Du, you see the word du, Dukkha. Dukkha means very unhappy. So here, the Pali translation match very nicely. So these are the three sources that give rise to deeds. So if you have greed, hatred, and delusion, you cannot expect anything else. You will expect this kind of hellish rebirth, animal rebirth, ghost realm, or other places which are very unhappy. Since I talk about rebirth, I have no choice. I have to touch on this one. So the Buddha underneath the Bodhi tree, enlightenment, discovered there are 31 planes of existence. I didn't show the rest. Later you'll see that. But here I show you the Dugati planes, realms of misery, often called Apaya. Right at the bottom are hells, and there are varying kinds of hells, or Niraya. Earlier the page, Niraya mentioned. You have the animal world, Tirachana. I hope the Chinese is correct. I do a lot of sourcing, and I don't read Chinese, so difficult. Okay, you have hungry ghosts, the Petas, which we will be, what they call, helping next from the Chinese calendar. And you have the Asuras, the demons. So these are all suffering. And where are we? We are number 5 from the bottom. So don't think we are very high, Okay. So very near, Anytime you do something not so skillful, you go down. Very near. Now, the sutta continues. Monks, there are these 3 sources that give rise to these. Contentment, love, understanding are sources that give rise to these. Here, the Pali is actually alobo, non-greed, adoso, no hatred, amoho, no delusion, that gives rise to these. So contentment doesn't give rise to greed. We established that. Rather, contentment or alobo gives rise to alobo, to contentment. Love doesn't give rise to hate. Definitely, love just gives rise to love. And similarly, understanding doesn't give rise to delusion. And understanding gives rise to understanding. Don't worry, I won't show you any more fruits. But here we're talking about human qualities. Here, very commonsensical. When there's love and care, you cannot give rise to hate. That is our everyday lived experience. We know that for sure. So it's not because of this born of contentment, love, and understanding that hell, animal realm, and the ghost realm, or any other bad places are found. Rather, it's because of deeds born of contentment, love, and understanding that gods, humans, and those in other good places are found. Now, the Pali is quite interesting. Gods, this is a standard English translation. Notice the small g, not capital G, small g, but the more precise word to use is Deva. So why I don't like to use the word God, I just copied from the translator, God, because English language has evolved and is strongly influenced by the Christian doctrine and their ideology. So when you use English words, it carries that so-called historical and religious baggage. So I generally prefer to use the word Devas. And then you have human, Manusa, and all the good places. Notice Sugati, Su. You see Su in front means good, something pleasant. Now, this picture is quite interesting. Notice the non-human paying respect to the Buddha, 4 face, Okay. Now, in Buddhist artistic, usually Thai and all that, when you draw a 4 face celestial being. It means it is a Brahma. Remember, Chinese, we talk about four-faced Brahma. Okay, it's not one person, you know. All Brahmas, from the artistic point of view, are all four-faced. All four faces. Those they are in the Brahma worlds, but they are kind of Deva. Lower than Brahma, they have the Devas also, but they are single face. So that's how they, although they are celestial beings. This picture is probably showing Brahma Sahampati, what they call, having a discussion with the Buddha just after his enlightenment. Okay, here is the full 31 planes of existence. Here we covered, we have humans. Then above humans, we have the four great kings, the Chatu Maharajika. These Chinese are very familiar. Tavatimsa, Buddhists will be familiar. The Buddha went over to Tavatimsa to teach the Devas there, the Abhidhamma and so on. Then the Yama Devas, not much is heard about this plane. Then you have the heaven of delight, Tusita Devas. Tusita Deva is where is the Buddha's former mother, Queen Mahamaya. When she passed away, she was born into the Tusita heaven. And later, when she knew that the Buddha was going to Tavatimsa to teach, she went down from here to join the Tavatimsa Devas to listen to the Buddha. These two are seldom heard of, but in case you're wondering, Mara, you know, the bad guy, the deity, is somewhere here. Not very high, not Brahma, is one of the Devas here. Now, here is known as the Kamma Loka sensual realms. Here, 12 onwards, up to here, up to 22, these are called the Brahma realms. These are the people with the four faces, as from the artist's point of view. But for most of us, when we do unwholesome things rooted in greed, hatred, and delusion, we are what we call making sure that we are born somewhere here. If you are born as human, a lot of suffering, a lot of disadvantages as a human. But if we do a lot of non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion stuff, we are born here. We do a lot of giving, dana, and social work, welfare work, and all that. Tendency is to be here. You are, for those kind of good deeds, you are not qualified to be born here. Not good enough. To be born here, you need to first jhana. You need to meditate to achieve the first degree of deep concentration. First jhana, you make yourself expert, then you'll get a chance to be born here. Second jhana here, third jhana here, fourth jhana here. Okay, so all these are meditation realms. Here, anagami, pure abodes, these are not, they are reserved for people who have attained the third stage of enlightenment. So they are enlightened beings already here. They stay here and live here and practice the Dhamma until they became enlightened arahats. Here is a special class. They don't have bodies. Okay. Now, one thing about all of this, lifespan here is very short, gets longer. This is the longest. But it is still temporary. You're still born, live a life, and you pass away. Your live a life could be very short or very, very long. Okay. But it is temporary. So this is showing the different 31 planes within the cycle of birth and death. So some people ask, where's the Buddha now? That is an irrelevant question. Why? The Buddha, once become, anybody who become enlightened can never be born again. Born, you must be here. You're not born again, this chart of 31 does not apply to the enlightened disciples or even the Buddha. So the Buddha is not here. Back to trees and roots. So we have, normally from common sense, we plant something, we plant from seeds. Of course, we can buy sapling from the botanical garden or whatever. From seeds plus nutrients, the seeds will give out roots. Now, roots of your actions could be rooted in, could be based on, influenced by greed, hatred, and delusion, or non-greed, non-hatred, and non-delusion. Here's a picture of many kinds of seeds, many kinds of plants. Your actions and plus nutrients are either classified as skillful or unskillful. When you do that, you are feeding those roots. And then you have results, which in this metaphor, they are called fruits. The fruits can be pleasant or unpleasant. And of course, our Malaysian favorites. I'm not sure about soursop, whether it's a favorite Malaysian fruit or not. But definitely durian, mango is a favorite. So these are the fruits, whether you like it or not. So things you do, emphasize some more, you will get results. And of course, as long as you have not eliminated what they call delusion or ignorance, there is a possibility of rebirth, being born again. If you have eliminated that, you can never be born. That means you are enlightened. Now, moving to another sutta. This is a Sammaditthi, right understanding or right view sutta. Now, this sutta happened in Savatthi in the Jetavana monastery, and it was taught by Venerable Sariputta, talking to some monks. And Venerable Sariputta said, a noble disciple understands the unskillful and its root, the skillful and its root. Now, this sentence is very important. First is noble disciple, not just people like you and me. A noble disciple is one who is enlightened to some extent, an Arya, okay, even at Sotapan, basic level. That person understands skillful, unskillful actions and its causes, its root, skillful actions and its root. He understands. Right now, we don't understand. We still perform unskillful actions based on the not so good roots. So when they have done this, okay, when they understand, a noble disciple has right understanding, right view, whose view is correct, who has experiential confidence. Okay, this particular Pali word, definition, it's not a matter of believing the Buddha, you know. Buddhism, we don't care about belief. Buddhism talks about investigation. Remember just now we recited some of the qualities of the Dhamma? Ehi pasiko, come and see. Or another translation, inviting investigation. Please check. Okay. So here, when you have checked, you have not just you have tested it and experientially verified faith. Faith, not blind faith, you know, verified. I mean, you test, you think over it, logical or not, reasonable or not, and you test it in real life. So experientially means you are actually putting it into practice to see, hey, it works, oh. This what the Buddha taught is true. Then you have experientially done the experiment and you verify that it works. Okay. Because of that, you have confirmed confidence. Okay, confirmed confidence because your confidence grows. So this is a very important word. Who has experiential confidence in the teaching has come to the true teaching. So, but what is unskillful and what is its root? And what is the skillful and what is its root? Venerable Sariputta asks. And here, Venerable Sariputta lists out the well-known 10. Killing living creatures, you will be familiar. Panati pato, stealing, adina dana, just now, we're talking about the 5 precepts. Sexual misconduct, kamisu michacharo. Here, this particular list expands the speech aspect to more than the 5 precepts. Okay, we talk about lying or false speech, divisive speech, harsh speech, nonsensical speech. And talks about covetousness, which is extreme greed. I want your Lamborghini. I will come to your house and take it. Don't care what you think. Covetousness, ill will, wrong view. So all these are the 10 unskillful actions. Here, the translator notes that covetousness, ill will, and wrong views are strong forms of greed, hate, and delusion, obviously. So this is called the unskillful. Again, I emphasize, unskillful, the Pali word is akusala. And what is the root of the unskillful? The Buddha, the Venerable Sariputta says, greed, hatred, and delusion. Now, the range of unwholesome is wider than that of the immoral. English word, they have different place of words. What do you mean by immoral? Is immoral unwholesome or what? But actually, immoral is part of unwholesome, but unwholesome covers a wider area. So it comprises all deeds, words, and thoughts motivated by any degree of greed, hatred, and delusion. Immoral could be maybe breaking the law, but law is very narrow. Unwholesomeness is very wide. Okay, so criteria for unwholesomeness or akusala is based on whether it's motivated by greed, hatred, and delusion or not. So what is the skillful? Here I make it a compressed list. Avoiding actions, avoiding certain unskillful actions, that of avoiding killing, avoiding stealing, avoiding sexual misconduct. Avoiding certain kinds of speech. Why? False speech, divisive speech, harsh speech, and nonsensical speech. Avoiding those. And the opposite of those strong aspect of greed, hatred, and delusion. Contentment, goodwill, and right view. All together here, there are also 10. Now, these 10 are also known as the 10 ways of doing skillful deeds, the Dasa Kusala Kamma Pata. Okay, that's the Pali word. And what is the root of the skillful? Contentment, love, understanding. More importantly, aloba, adosa, and amoha. Now, the roots of the 10 unwholesome ways. Now, this sutta is quite interesting. Now, here in the Kamma Nidana, sources of actions, when you learn a bit Pali, you can actually translate directly. Nidana means sources, the causes of Kamma. Kamma means action. So, monks, I say that killing creatures is threefold, caused by greed, hatred, delusion. All three are in play. And I say that stealing is threefold, caused by greed, hatred, and delusion. Then sexual misconduct, lying, divisive speech, harsh speech, talking nonsense, covetousness, ill will, wrong view are all threefold, caused by greed, hate, delusion. Not one or the other, caused by all three, greed, hate, and delusion. This is the importance of this particular sutta. I checked a few translations, some slight variation, but this part is very important. Not this or this plus this or some combination. It's greed, hate, delusion, all cause all this. And so greed, hate, and delusion are sources and origins of deeds. Obviously, with the ending of greed, hate, and delusion, the sources of deeds are ended. So here, this is the fuel that fuels the fire. When it is ended, only ashes remain. So this part is very important. Why? It is what I call, it gives you a possibility that, oh, there is a possibility of good news. Okay, if I end greed, hatred, what do I get? So sources of these deeds are ended. But what else? And this sutta is quite interesting, the Nidana Sutta, Sources Sutta. But the title covers rebirth and its ending. So again, the Buddha says, greed, hate, and delusion are sources that give rise to these. Any deed that emerges from greed, born, source, originated from greed, ripens where that new incarnation is born. So you perform an action motivated by greed. But what is the result? Here ripens where there is birth. And wherever that deed ripens, its result is experience. Either in the present life, which means you perform something motivated by greed. In the present life means the balance of this life. In the next life, the one immediately after, or in some subsequent period. This sentence, I use the term no expiry date, which most of us say, ayo, cham lo. Why? Something hit you. We don't know what hit you. Some, what they call unhappy experience, some bad luck, bad fate. This is in some subsequent period. So something you did 10,000 rebirths ago can hit you now. And you don't know what hit you. You blame, oh, why like that, that fella like that, and blame everybody else, but actually you did it. Here we understand. We did it now, later we gonna. This one we can't see, we don't remember, or we cannot see. And most people assume is, oh, rebirth. Rebirth means next life only. They forgot the last one. In some subsequent period. In the distant future, don't know when. Any deed that emerges from hate ripens in a new birth, and whatever deeds ripens, its result is experience, whether in the present life, next life, or subsequent period. And similarly for delusion, it ripens in the new birth, and of course, again, these three. It can ripen in the present life, in the next life, in some subsequent period. We have done a lot of things, a lot of karma, a lot of actions. So all the energy generated by our actions, whether wholesome, unwholesome, skillful or unskillful, all compete with each other, you know. Do I go first? Those who are in store management, oh, first in, first out. No such thing. Some people prefer emergency version. I did something good. Hopefully it's last in, first out. Sorry lah, it doesn't work that way. Okay. But here shows this problem. The one we have to worry more is here. In some subsequent. Why? This particular sentence indicates in this life, I'm a very good person. But yet, in my life, later portion of my life, something very bad happens. Ayo, many people say, ayo, he's so wholesome person, help other people, but yet all the bad luck happened to him now. Why? Not fair. Karma is not fair. These people haven't read what the Buddha said. They skip out on this last sentence. What they did last time, don't know. Some people are very bad now. People know, obviously, the law cannot catch them somehow because law is made in Congress, in Parliament, whatever, legislation. And the wording is very important. The lawyers will argue here this way, this angle, that angle. You miss out one word, one sentence, one word that it means differently. But when people formulate law, people cannot project in the future. They only think about the past. Something happened, then they make this law. And something, slight variation happened, this law like cannot tapakai, cannot arrest the fella. That is the legal. But it doesn't mean it's not unwholesome, So right now, this person could be very unwholesome, can never get arrested. Or at least as of now, the status of certain issues, especially all the politics in US, certain people cannot get into prison, Somehow got delay here, delay there, got ways to ula the way out and everything. And why? Why the fellow cannot get arrested? Could be this one. This person could be a very wholesome person, probably something protecting him. Now he's a very bad person. So we have what they call mixed karma. Now, suppose some seeds were intact, unspoiled, weather damaged, fertile, and well kept. They are sown in a well-prepared, productive field. This is called farmer talk. Okay, and the heavens provide plenty of rain. Then those seeds would grow, increase, and mature. Now, this sentence is important, this area. Why? It shows that even things you do take time to mature. So when you do certain wholesome thing, it doesn't mean immediately, wow, good things happen to you immediately, tomorrow or next minute. No such thing. It takes time. When? Don't know. Not up to you to determine. It's a natural law. So it takes time. You do unwholesome things, unskillful things, it also takes time to mature. It hits you when it hits you. Don't know when. Like that. So in the same way, that any deed that emerges from greed, greed ripens where their new incarnation is born. And wherever deeds ripen, the result experience in this life, next life, or subsequent period. And same thing goes for talking about, that one was greed, talk about hatred, talk about delusion. So it takes time to mature. Now, here is quite interesting. Notice earlier page, I underlined rebirth. So we're talking about rebirth. Suddenly, the sutta takes a turn for its ending, its cessation, ending of rebirth. Now, monks, there are these three sources that give rise to this. Again, here, the translator used the word contentment, love, understanding. Non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion. And any deed that emerges from a contentment or non-greed, born from non-greed, is given up when greed is done away with. Now, this sentence is very important. When you have given up greed, no more greed in your psyche. You don't know how to be greedy. That sounds too good to be true. But when you're at the high level of practice and enlightenment, when you are able to give up greed, greed is done away with, is cut off at the root, made like a palm stump, obliterated, unable to arise in the future. Hence the picture. The plant cannot continue to grow. Now, this part is very important. Any deed that emerges from non-hatred, originated from non-hatred, abandoned when hate is done away with, cut off at its root. And similarly for non-delusion, abandoned when delusion is done away with, cut off at its root. This is a very high level of attainment. Now, suppose some seeds were intact, unspoiled, not damaged, and so on, but someone would burn them, burn the seeds, reduce them to ashes, sweep them away with a strong wind and float down a swift stream. Then these seeds would be cut off at the root, obliterated, unable to arise in the future. This is a description of a person who has what we call a spiritual practitioner who has worked on uprooting and getting rid of greed, hatred, and delusion. And similarly, any deed that emerges from non-greed, the greed is done away, cut off, unable to arise in the future. And similarly for any deed that emerges from non-hatred or any deed that arises from non-delusion. What will happen? All these greed, hatred, and delusion will not be able to arise in the future. Now, when an ignorant person acts out of greed, hatred, and delusion, any deeds they have done, a little or a lot, are to be experienced right here. Right here means in samsara, not in any other place. So a wise person, a mendicant, arousing knowledge, this is talking about getting into the enlightenment process, arousing knowledge of the outcome of greed, hatred, and delusion, would cast off all destinies, all bad destinies. Okay, that means get rid of, no chance to be reborn in the unhappy world. Now here, we are going a little bit more technical into the enlightenment aspects. Greed and delusion in their weakest forms are entirely eliminated on attaining arahantship. Now, that means even before arahantship, even at the third stage of enlightenment, of course, you still have delusion, but you still have a little bit of greed, weakened already. While hatred, down to its weakest form, is fully abandoned at the stage of non-returner, anagami. This is the third stage of enlightenment. Okay, so even the person who has attained the first stage of sainthood can still get angry. The person who attained the second stage of enlightenment can still get angry, but not so easy. The fuse become longer and longer. You've got to choke him a lot more before the person blows his head. But when the person attains anagami, the third stage of enlightenment, he doesn't know how to get angry. However, you choke him. Okay? So hatred is no more in the anagami's vocabulary or in psychic. But greed is still there, right up to arahantship. So it is this, only at arahantship that all the three unwholesome roots are finally given up or entirely gone, though they are decisively weakened at the earlier three stages of emancipation. So when you go towards the first stage of enlightenment, you weaken it until arahantship. You uproot completely. Now, this part is very important. And since we're talking about arahantship and all that, we have to refer to Sangyojana. the 10 fetters or the 10 defilements. These are the 10 defilements Buddhists are working on to weaken and finally uproot. We want ultimately to gain enlightenment, we want to get uproot ignorance or avijja. No avijja, no ignorance. Okay, when there's no more in your psychic, this is your last life. You cannot be reborn. So the Buddha has got rid of all 10. All his enlightened disciples have got rid of all 10. But more importantly, this avijja or ignorance is the determinant whether you get to reborn or not. No ignorance, no avijja, no rebirth. As long as it's there, you still can be reborn. Okay? So, I talk so much about first stage of enlightenment, sotapan. The person who has uprooted personality belief, skeptical doubt, and clinging to mere rules and regulations. Some people are very particular about rituals, how to perform puja must be this way. This is the way you hold the joystick, not the other way. You must buy this kind of joystick, not that kind of joystick. That brand, that good, this one good. All kinds of procedures. Backtrack a little bit. The whole world are divided into two kinds of people. Worldlings, Putujana, and noble ones, Arya. Here, the Buddha doesn't classify by EQ level or IQ level. Okay, you only classify whether you've done anything to this 10 or not. You have not done anything, you are worldling. You have done something to it, you're an Arya, a noble one, worthy of respect and so on. So we have uprooted these three, you attain the first stage, the stream winner. This person who attain this will get a glimpse of Nibbana, have perfect confidence in what the Buddha taught, no more lingering doubt. The momentum has started, the flywheel has started turning, the person will start to practice. And for a Sotapan, if the Sotapan's momentum of practice is very slow, maximum 7 more rebirths before the person attains Arhatship. That's called slow. Many of the stories in the Tipitaka show that Sotapan, the person attains Sotapan, very often in that same life, becomes an Arahat, the momentum of practice. Now, here, second stage of enlightenment, Sakaragami, is a person who has weakened, not uprooted, but weakened sensuous craving and ill will. Ill will is the root of anger, hatred. So weaken this. And only at third stage of enlightenment, Anagami, has the person uprooted sensuous craving and ill will. And therefore, Anagami, since he has no ill will, he does not know how to get angry. And to become fully enlightened, you have to get rid of craving. Craving is greed. Craving for fine material existence, craving for immaterial existence, conceit. Conceit means a very fine aspect of personality belief, very fine-tuned, like I know more than you. This is the I, conceit. Restlessness, so those meditators sit down, I feel very restless, cannot sit still. You can only get rid of this when you're Arahat. So before that, all these people, first, second, third, still restless, but maybe to a lesser extent. And most important, ultimate aim is to get rid of ignorance. When you have uprooted all these balance, you have attained Arhathood, which is the primary aim of good Buddhists. So here is a repeat of the Nidana Sutta. So when greed is done away with, hatred is done away with, when delusion is done away with, cut off at its root, unable to arise in the future, what happens? When roots are cut off, you have actions that are trackless. For an Arahat, okay, when you have uprooted ignorance, the coming energy, when the Arahat will do things. Buddha will go around teaching, helping this person, give advice, and so on. The Buddha doesn't make Kamma anymore. He has destroyed the karmic generator. And because he has uprooted avijja, no more ignorance, no more rebirth. This becomes his last life. So any question as to where's the Buddha now does not apply. But for the rest of us, this is just now many slides are very, very deep, and although he has implications, for the rest of us, practice, just concentrate on 5 precepts. If you're more advanced in your practice, maybe the 10 unskillful actions, we can try to get rid of them. But generally, the principle is refrain from what is unwholesome. And if you are able to be aware of your roots, whether they are motivated by greed, hatred, and delusion, then work on those also. But if not, at least unwholesome actions, things you can see. Be steadfast in good qualities. Steadfast means you do good quality, not once in the blue moon, but steadfast means to do it again and again and again. Encourage. When you do more and more, concentrate on this, these two things cannot occupy the same timeline. You either do this or do this. If you concentrate on this one become forgotten. You're practicing this. Now, initially, when you practice the 5 precepts, do the wholesome aspects, the ennoblers, what happens is that you're concentrating on the actions. You're not worried about your roots. But as you practice, your practice become very, very matured, very strong. You become aware of motivating factors in why you are doing all those wholesome things. The roots become aware. That means your mindfulness is improving, so you're aware of your roots, the thing that motivate you to do wholesome things. So hopefully it is non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion, and you move on from there. But in the end, everything in the Buddha taught is summarized into this Dhammapada verse 183. Sabba papasa akranang, kusala sa upasampada, sacitta paritapanang, etang buddhana sasanang. Notice the word kusala, good or skillful. So avoid evil, do wholesome things, purify your mind. Okay, this is the teaching of the Buddhas. So anybody want to ask you, what did the Buddha teach? Instead of giving the whole Dhamma talk 1 hour, this Dhammapada summarizes everything. So that was the end of this morning sharing on the roots and Kamma. The next session, we're talking about the social significance of the roots. Okay, I might have a little bit comment about this picture, commonly found in internet. The domino thing, trying to depict karma. It is an oversimplification, but it generally gives the results that you do something, it will come back and have a result. This picture doesn't tell you about how long is the domino. Whether it's a short domino trip, that means the results happen in this life, next life, or whenever. So the domino journey could be very short or could be very, very long. Number 2, it doesn't tell you about why you start the ball rolling in the first place. It doesn't talk about the roots. It doesn't talk. It just tells you generally what karma is. The actions have results. So with that, Saddhammo Chirang Titatu. May the good doctrine long endure. Sabbe Satta Sukhi Honda. May all beings be happy.